When people think that meditation is about trying to make their depression go away, or their anxiety, or their stress, or they think, I'll meditate and I'll be able to just calm and clear my mind, all of this can sometimes actually make meditation kind of dangerous for some people. Let me explain. Mindfulness meditation isn't about making any of our feelings change from what they are. When we meditate, we're not trying to change our feelings, make the bad feelings go away and bring on only the good feelings. No. If we feel depressed when we sit down to meditate, we're not trying to make that depression go away or to change it into a peaceful feeling instead of a depressed feeling. In fact, that's the opposite of meditation, trying to make yourself feel something other than what you're already feeling or what's already here. Don't do that. That can be dangerous. Why? Because that's a form of repression and suppression, which on a long enough timeline usually only serves to make things worse. That's why it can be dangerous for some people. If you're already feeling at the bottom of the barrel, you definitely don't want to make things worse for yourself. But then people say, well, then if meditation is going to help me with my depression, why should I meditate? Or why is meditation always talked about as something that can help me with mental health? So here's the really critical thing to understand. Reduction in depression or anxiety or pain or even bringing down things like high blood pressure or reducing any kind of stress, be it physical or mental, emotional, it's critical to understand all of that as potential byproducts of the practice of meditation, but not the practice itself. This is so key and probably the most overlooked and misunderstood aspect of meditation. That the reduction of our stress, be it physical or mental, emotional stress, can be the byproducts of the practice of meditation, but it's not actually what we're trying to do when we meditate. We're not trying to make our stress go away. And in fact, when we do try to make our feelings go away or to make them change into something else, we tend to make things worse. That's why I say it can be dangerous for some people. The practice of meditation, at least of mindfulness meditation, is simply to make space. When we sit down to practice mindfulness meditation, we practice making space for what we're already feeling. We don't sit down and try to make our depression go away. We don't sit down and try to feel all rainbows and unicorns. That's what we do in normal life. We feel something we consider to be bad, and so we do all kinds of things to try and make ourselves feel better. We drink alcohol and smoke stuff and zone out on the internet. We yell at other drivers out on the road just to try to release some steam and make ourselves feel better. All of those behaviors at their core are really just us trying to make ourselves feel better, to get away from the bad feelings and get more of the good feelings. And how's that working out for us? It creates an endless, repetitive, unfulfilling loop of trying to make life something that it's not. When we sit down to meditate, we literally do the exact opposite. We sit down and we ask ourselves, okay, what's here? What's here? What am I feeling? What's going on with me? How does my body feel? How does my heart feel? How does my mind feel? And we practice letting all of that express, letting all of that just be here. And we don't run away from it. We just sit there and let it all come up, not in order to get rid of it, but just so that it can express. It's like if you're always trying to hold back the waves, they can never pass. So we sit down and practice not holding back the waves of how we feel. So if you think about it, in essence, we're making space for how we feel. We make space for our depression to be here. Or maybe better said, we make space for us to feel our depression or whatever it is we're feeling, anxiety or overwhelm, or even just loss sometimes. When was the last time you just let yourself feel lost without trying to solve it? Just let it express. And so now we're no longer fighting our bad feelings. We're no longer getting anxious about our anxiety or depressed about our depression or frazzled about how scattered our minds are. Instead, in our meditation, we're saying to ourselves, okay, I'm feeling depressed. Depression is present right now in my mind-body system. So let's take the next 10 minutes or however long we've decided to meditate, and let's do nothing else about it except to let those feelings express. Let them be. Now, there's a really important pivot point for all of this to function. What I'm describing doesn't mean that we sit there in meditation and just think about how rotten we feel, or how rotten our life feels sometimes, or what a bad person our ex is. No, we let ourselves feel the feelings, and at the same time, we practice letting go of our thoughts about the feelings. At least mindfulness meditation isn't about thinking about stuff. It's not about analyzing our feelings or wondering why we are the way that we are or why someone else is the way that they are. No, that's like the opposite of meditation. All day long, we think about our feelings. We think about how someone said something and now we feel this way, and then something else happens and now we feel this other way, and we judge and blame and criticize, and then at the end of the day, we wonder why we're not happier. So this is the opposite of meditation. Meditation isn't about sitting down and thinking about stuff. We actually practice letting go of our thoughts about our feelings so that we can just stay in the feelings. See, endless thinking about feelings can become just another way to get away from our feelings. We conceptualize what we're feeling, and now it's like we've created a little bit of a buffer zone between us and our feelings. If we can blame our neighbor's barking dog for how we feel, then we can focus all our attention on the dog. And to some degree, that brings us some temporary relief. We change the suffering from our feelings to the dog, and in the change, there's the appearance of some temporary relief. But it's not real relief, it's just another distraction. Darn dog, and then later it's darn kids, and then later it's darn president, or whatever it is. When we meditate, we actively, intentionally practice letting go of our thoughts so as to stay in the present moment experience of our feelings, so that we can get out of the trap of always fighting them, always trying to make them go away, which never brings us peace, ever. And if we go back to the wave metaphor, if we're no longer holding back all of our feelings, then maybe at some point they can pass. And that's what I was talking about as all of this being the byproduct of our meditation. In our meditation, we're not trying to make the feelings pass. Otherwise, that's just another form of fighting them. Let's get them gone. Let's get them past. Instead, in our meditation, we let them be here fully. We sit with them day after day for maybe just 10 minutes a day. So first we make the space in our calendar, like for these 10 minutes every day, we're going to meditate. Then we make some physical space. We decide we're going to sit over there or lie down over here. So we make physical space for our meditation. Then we create some space in our life by telling people that between these times, we are unavailable to them just for 10 minutes or whatever. We have a meeting or something important to do just for those 10 minutes. So we make that space in our lives. And then when we sit down to meditate, we make space for ourselves to be exactly as we are. End of story. And we don't get away from that present moment experience by thinking about it or analyzing it or blaming or judging. We let go of our thinking so that we can stay in the direct present moment experience of how we're feeling. The physical sensations in the body, the tingles, the aches and the pains and the itches, the emotional sensations of unworthiness or fear or heartbreak or whatever it is. And when we start thinking about our feelings, which we will because that's our main habit, to think about things, in meditation we actually practice letting those thoughts go so that we can stay in the practice of just being present. And then the byproduct of this is that the waves, because we're not holding them back anymore, they get a chance to pass. More waves will come, of course, that's the nature of waves, always in states of coming and going. But now instead of trying the ridiculous task of stopping them, which only ever gets us pulled under all the time, now we're learning to ride the waves. We're learning how to surf the waves. And that's really what meditation is, giving yourself the time and space to learn how to surf the waves of life. Not stop them, not pretend there's someone else's fault. Everybody's got waves in their life. You know why? Because that's the nature of life. That's what life is, a series of endless waves, sometimes soft and beautiful, other times incredibly painful. But with practice, you can learn how to surf all of them. not by denying them, but by giving them space, the space to be what they are, and the space to be what you are, which is human.